Welcome to Missing the Point. Welcome to the Power Ranking Show. Welcome to the wonderful world of myth and legend, where we create opinions on things that professional athletes do out of thin air every week in the NFL.
That was an intro.
That was an intro. It was an intro.
Myth and legends, huh?
By definition, it was an intro. I hope everyone's still here. Power Ranking Show. We have some stuff to talk about, Robert. We did our show last week. It was a lot of fun. We did it during the Bears-Commanders game. There was mirth and merriment to be had for me as the Bears finally eked out their first win ever. Ensuing Waterboy memes really helping the cause. Happy that happened, but also a lot more football got played since then. So we got to get into it and talk about it. Oh, speaking of the Bears, on that note, I don't know what I'm cheering for now.
You're like Bill Simmons in the Celtics. You know, you're like, speaking of the Bears, by the way, I have some things to say about.
I know they're never going to make the power ranking, so I have to slide them in at the start. I don't know what I'm cheering for now. I don't know if I'm cheering for like the top 2 draft picks or if like maybe they can possibly eke out a decent season. I have no.
They're not the worst 3 teams in the league.
They're not. They're not. It's definitely the Patriots, the Panthers, and would you say the
Giants?
The Giants, probably the Giants.
Yes.
Yeah,
the Giants.
The Giants do look really, really bad.
And the Broncos.
Broncos
got to be in there too. Those are the
fun. Yeah. Although I did have a lot of fun watching that Broncos Jets game this weekend. That was great. And there was also the last game on in the late games, and it was like finished great, and it was just
the ending. The ending was great too. I think it was. I don't know if it was Big Cat or the other. What's the other guy's name? PMT. Brought it up, but like Russell Wilson fumbles like a cartoon character too, and to see Peyton just ripping into him as he came off the sideline was just so glorious. I don't know why it just was. I was like, come on,
fuck Sean Payton though. Like he comes in, he talks all this shit, and
he's such a dirtbag.
He must have known there was no way he was going to be able to turn this fucking roster around in real time.
So bad.
And I'm not even sure he's a bad coach. I think there are coaches that would be doing less with this team as it's currently constituted. But he went there for a paycheck. Like he basically waited for a
100%, dude.
He waited for a team to offer him a bonkers contract based on the success he found with Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints all those years. A properly run franchise, I might add. Like despite their woes these days, they're a properly run franchise supported vehemently by their fan base.
Not so far this year. They've been all right.
They've been okay. And I think they'll be good again. I don't know how true that is of the Denver Broncos because the what would you call it? Lack of responsibility in trading the fucking farm for Russ. Like, what's the point?
Yeah,
you know, like what's
egregious.
Like it when you're
contract and
right.
Just.
But when you're a team with a fan base as loyal as the Denver Broncos, like they'll wait for you to do it right. I mean, I know it was taken a little bit, but their last Super Bowl win wasn't that long ago. So it's like, I don't know. They still had Von Miller. It just seems strange. Just seems like a strange thing to go all in on, all things considered.
Well, they don't have Von Miller anymore. Some of those.
They still had Von Miller. When they were in that position. You know what I mean? Like they were in a position to sort of still build on a couple of key players. And if you're going to start all over, but don't bring in Russell Wilson to be the win now guy in 2022.
Well,
like,
I think
you could do that in 2012.
They legitimately thought that they were that piece away from winning a Super Bowl.
Well, that's just irresponsible. They clearly are not.
Well, it was like the weapons, I get, like they kind of mirrored what the Seahawks had, but it was so clear that Russ wasn't Russ anymore, man. It was so clear. And it's like the defense what's crazy about the Broncos to me, man, is the defense was like good last year. You remember they were bad, although they did end up losing the playoffs.
No, they were bad.
So
they were bad.
They weren't as bad though.
You didn't think they were bad, which benefited me.
Shut the fuck up. That was so sad. For all you people that are new to the show, I played the Broncos defense in the fantasy playoffs last year.
No. Be clear. We were playing each other. It was the semifinals. You decided to go
the Broncos defense
up. You guys decided to go pick up the Broncos defense over like the Jets or something that you
were they playing? It was the Rams, I think.
They got absolutely taken apart. They actually had negative points.
It was like the Dolphins game this past week. It was 2 weeks ago. That's what happened.
They got destroyed. The reason Bobby lost is because his defense had negative points.
-6, and I lost by 5. It was brutal. But that Broncos defense now is historically bad.
Might be the worst.
I've never.
Might be the worst.
It's really bad.
Everybody can hang points on him. Like everybody, even the Jets offense.
Even the Jets. Listen,
Zach Wilson out there looking like fucking prime Russell Wilson, ironically.
One bad throw, which is the one at the end that gave the Broncos a chance. But other than that, man, that Broncos offense was moving all day. What did they have, like 243 yards rushing?
That'd be wild.
It's crazy
to be a Jets fan right now. Like the fucking roller coaster Zach Wilson sends you on. He has a couple decent throws, and then it's like, well, what's gonna happen next? It's just it's a roll of the dice every time.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it though. I enjoyed a lot of games this weekend. Let's start
really good games.
Let's start with a couple honorable mentions that didn't make it in. I wanted to bring up the Seahawks. I feel like they might have dropped off. Like they might have actually just been cursed by their bye week because they didn't do anything to not, you know what I mean? Like nothing moved the needle because they didn't play. But you have the Bucs at number 10, which I respect, and I think that's fair. But I do want to say I think the Seahawks might be a better team than we think, and we might see them creep in, especially because teams like the Bucs, teams like the Steelers, you got the Jags on here, a lot of trick or treat teams. Like the Ravens have come and gone on this thing. A lot of trick or treat teams, a lot of good this week, depending on who they're playing, or sometimes they show up, sometimes they don't. There's been the London factor, which is fair enough. The Jags basically have a residency there now, so that they had a little bit of an advantage. But
that was such an advantage, right? I couldn't believe they did.
Seems a little unfair, actually.
I couldn't believe it. Yeah, it was wild.
But I mean, the Bills only had like a 5-hour flight. It's not like the worst thing.
That blows my mind. That's like it's proof of the Matrix.
Yeah, the Earth is flat, right? On that note, actually, I can't believe we're talking about this every week. So we talked about this last week. Obviously, Travis Kelce does a commercial, which is like athletes do it all the time.
The Pfizer.
They do it all the time. It's like a PSA. He can probably write a bunch of shit off on his taxes when he does this shit. Like it doesn't matter. So he does it. Aaron Rodgers goes like, Mr. Pfizer, da-da-da. You and I come out, or we talked about this. This had already happened when we talked about it. Travis Kelce then goes like, call me Mr. Pfizer. I didn't expect to be in like a vax war with Aaron Rodgers. But anyway, yeah, whatever, man. It was a good joke, I guess. It wasn't, by the way. If you like that joke, then tell me about all the Big Bang Theory episodes you've seen.
Yeah, how's your pumpkin latte?
Yeah, right. but Travis Kelce tries to play it off. Like they ask him about it in a press conference, he tries to play it off. Then Aaron Rodgers goes back on the Pat McAfee show. And he seems like actually vitriolically upset with the response. Like he's just like, well, we're not in a vax war. Why don't you come debate me, bro? First of all, debate me, bro culture is just like, it's like, I'm not going to enter into a situation. I'm not going to waste my time entering into a situation with you where you tell me made up things that you've created.
You know what debate me, bro reminds me of? The Wicked Witch of the West, bro.
Yeah, but he was right.
The Wicked Witch of the West. You know what video?
Yeah, they just yell at you, right? And they just yell at you about their personal believies. Their little believies that they believe in because they read it and it made them feel good. And it's like, that's fine. I mean, I didn't feel good about any of the actual facts that were coming up, especially during COVID, but I actually had to look at them because they're real. But yeah, Aaron Rodgers is obviously a fucking buffoon. And I think what's very obvious, especially in the sort of body language and how the tone he was taking in response to Travis Kelce being pretty cool about it, to be honest, is he's so clearly mad at how much less famous he is than Travis Kelce.
So mad about it.
Travis Kelce's dating T Swift. He's on commercials. He's got twice as many Super Bowls as Rodgers does. And Rodgers is just on the couch on the fucking Pat McAfee show. And I think this is the real problem with the whole thing is I actually now really want Aaron Rodgers to play for a longer time because we're getting a glimpse into what kind of a force Aaron Rodgers is going to be as he becomes less relevant when he fully retires, which is any minute now. And go ahead.
Do you see a world where Aaron Rodgers runs for president someday? Because I kind of do.
I mean, sure, but I'm not fucking
voting. No, I'm not either. But imagine they want to debate about vaccines. What if they're setting us up for a Kelce Rodgers presidential race?
Right. But also it's like the way he's talking about the rehab of his ankle. One of two things is going to
happen. The miraculous comments. The miracles and all that. Bro, come on.
So one of two things is happening, right? One, either he is going to make it back in an incredible timeline, like an unprecedented timeline for this injury, right? And that means that he went to fucking Germany and got the fucking Kobe treatment, or he had some stem cells injected in there, and he's
or
going to
it was
come
a
back.
script and he was never hurt in the first one.
Sure. But if and when that happens, he'll come back, not tell you about what he actually did to fix his ankle, and he'll be like, I just believe in the power of prayer, you know, and I just mentally I overcame it, which is incredibly fucking irresponsible.
Well, it's not the power of
but
prayer though; it's the power of spirituality.
no, he said it.
Right.
He said the words, the power.
Did he say
of prayer?
prayer?
He said the words, the power of prayer.
Okay.
All right. And he's
Okay.
going to be like, I'm just that dude. I'm just built different. And it's like, whatever. Or the alternative, which I think is going to happen, is he's not going to come back quickly. He's going to fuck his ankle up worse because he really believes the bullshit that he's peddling. And he's not going to be back in time for the playoffs. He's like, you don't even get this boot this fast. I'm like, okay, dude.
I saw that.
Don't listen, if you want to take your vaccine theory and expand it out as a multi-million-dollar athlete and don't listen to the doctors or sports scientists about your ankle either, Godspeed. You can just overcome things with the power of your mind. And when you get lung cancer when you're 65, I want you to try it that way too. All right. Let's see how it goes. Because it worked great for Steve Jobs, right? Where he was like, no. We'll just do, I caught my pancreatic cancer incredibly early, and doctors are actually hopeful, but I think I'm going to do holistic healing instead. It's like, best of luck, dude. Best of luck. Because as far as that goes, it's not hurting anybody else. So enjoy your fucking power of prayer, you fuckwit. Anyway, I don't want to hear Aaron Rodgers talk anymore, and I just feel like this is a glimpse into what he's going to be like when he's retired. He's going to be the Alex Jones of the NFL, and I don't want
it. It's like, listen, I've done my fair share of hallucinogenics in my time. But there comes a day where you've done too many and you're too connected to the earth for your own good. You know what I mean? Like, bro, you need some real medicine. You should get it. Come on.
Agreed. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. All right. Well, that's the weekly Aaron Rodgers segment here on Missing the Point.
I really liked him before all this too. Like,
did you?
I liked him on the Jets. That Hard Knocks made me like him.
For all 6
I like
seconds.
the shit. Yeah, exactly. Like that preseason. I don't know. I had high hopes, and then, 4 plays later,
I was fucking hating him. So that's all well and good. But anyway, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, so before we get into the Bucks, I want to go back to like what we were originally talking about before we got on our Aaron Rodgers tangent. The Saints almost made this list. It was honestly between them and the Bucks. The Seahawks,
not the
as
Seahawks?
you mentioned.
Yeah.
The Seahawks, as you mentioned. Obviously, I have a Texans affinity just because of CJ Stroud. But their loss took them out of this running.
But the Bucks had a bye week too, didn't they? So, what did they do to deserve the place?
They were there last week, is really what it was.
So you don't think the Saints, basically what you're saying is the Saints beating the Patriots didn't
earn them
move the needle enough.
Correct.
I agree, actually, because I think
the kept the Cowboys where they are last week. You know what I mean? The Patriots to me are
they don't move
stagnant wins.
I think they might be the worst team. They might. There's a chance
they are the worst. They're the worst team I've watched so far.
So I think that's a fair enough thing, especially because if you actually watch that game, and I did watch it a little closer than the other games. This past weekend.
Pats had any offense, they were in that game.
Well, I just thought
any offense.
I just thought like once they didn't have any offense, then the defense sort of gave up, and then the Saints looked a little bit maybe better than they were. Like I essentially overall I agree that like beating the Pats isn't anything to get you into the power rankings this year. That seems fair enough. The Bucks stayed there, like you said, they had a bye week. There isn't a ton more to talk about. We did a lot. We did a longer segment on our boy, the man who lives at the stadium, last week. So, go listen to that if you really want to hear about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers resurgence and why they're doing so well. There's a chance like they fall right off this because there has been some weird parity and stuff changing around. But let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers, Bobby. Let's talk about them.
Yeah. Okay. So this spot to me is interchangeable. I know a lot of people don't have the Steelers as high, and I completely get it because the offense is literally one of the worst offenses to watch in the NFL. They're such a painful watch every Sunday. But they just beat the Ravens, man, and I couldn't put them on the list ahead of the Steelers just because of the way that they've given away games. Like You know, the
But they were doing
Steelers
that
are
last year too, man. Like this
they
is why
were
I
that's
said
what I
to
mean,
you
this
that
is a trend. Yeah, this is 100% it's a trend, and the Steelers were begging to be beat on Sunday, bro. They were begging to be beat, and the Ravens just kept giving him chances, kept giving him chances, kept giving him chances, and eventually, when you have dudes like George Pickens, you're gonna
yeah, and
get
you
beat
leave
if you
and
keep
your
giving him that
secondary
chance.
corner one-on-one
Right,
with Pickens for some
and
reason.
TJ Watt and, like, these guys making the play on defense. What was that? It was a block punt where they got their first points, right? They got a safety, block punt.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
Safety. Yeah.
listen, until the Ravens can prove to me that they can win these AFC North games, because we all know the AFC North, everyone drives it into the ground. They're tough physical games. Anyone can win. It doesn't matter the records. Um, until the Ravens can prove they can win these games, man, it's tough for me to put them ahead of the Steelers. It really is. And like uh the Browns too. I like the Browns a lot, but again, the Steelers beat the Browns this year. So it's like when you think of the hierarchy of that division, it's just like I get that these other two teams are more talented. 100%. They're a better watch every
100%?
Sunday.
Sure.
Yeah, the Steelers offense is really bad. Najee
I mean
Harris is
I mean,
I don't know why they don't play Jalen Morgan over him. It's so stupid, man.
I I do think that
It's like
Warren
the
should.
Zeke Pollard thing, though.
I don't know if it's like that bad, to be honest. Like from what I was
Najee's pretty
watching.
slow.
Well, maybe Najee might be a dud. He might be, but I also remember like how athletically gifted he was going side to side when he first came in the league, and I think it leads to my broader point about the Steelers. To be honest, I've known that their defense was going to be good coming into
Defense is
this
legit.
season.
That defense is legit, man.
I think that
100%.
they probably. I agree with you. They probably aren't a nailed on top 10 team, but I do think that they have a top 10 defense. And I think that defense sort of won the game. I think that it's the most starkly different sides of the ball team I've seen this season, and maybe
Mhm.
for a while. Like the attitude of the defense, like the personnel, the coaching, the defensive play calling, the captains, like everything about their defense makes you basically want to watch the defense. Like you're praying for the offense to get off the field so you can watch the defense actually do something, because I
And
love watching
you watch
Watt.
him every Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I love watching Watt, I love watching Fitzpatrick, I love watching how they play call their defense. Like,
Yeah.
they're just really, really smart, like, they really are, like, well coached on that side of the ball, and it's patently fucking different on the other side, and I think for me, the thing that kinda bugs me is I know Kenny Pickett's better than that. I know that George Pickens used more effectively, like we saw at the end of the game. Um, the the important thing for me, and I know Najee Harris is a little bit more athletically gifted than he's sort of been seeing, and they also have Warren, who's really good. I think that their tight end, Freiermuth being out was a part of it. I think he's very, very talented. I put him at top 10 in the tight end position, although there's a very big drop off after the Ravens tight end and the Chiefs tight end. But I would put him in the top 10. Freiermuth. I
The
think
Chiefs
that
tight end.
yeah. Well, yeah, you know who I'm talking about. But I just mean like, the Ravens and the Chiefs both have elite tight ends, and then I
No,
think
I
there's
know,
a
I
little bit
know.
of a drop off,
No,
is what I
yeah,
meant to
no,
say.
yeah.
Um,
I know.
I think that Johnson coming back from injury will be very helpful to them. But overall, my point is it's Matt Canada's fucking fault. Like, I think you could
Yeah.
put Najee Harris in a situation where if you're blocking for him correctly and running him correctly and calling him plays correctly, then he can be a decent, yards per carry sort of engine for your
He's a
team.
north to south. He's a north to south guy, right? He's
The way that he runs, like, I don't love how he sees holes. Like, I don't think he sees holes correctly. I don't think he can make adjustments on the fly. Like, I always love Taylor for this, like where he, or like the best example obviously is Le'Veon Bell, where it's like he would wait for a second before
the
he saw a hole and he
slow-mo,
would just hit it.
bro.
But I love Jonathan Taylor for
Yeah.
this. I think DeAndre Swift has it. I think that Tony Pollard has it, although he kind of hits holes at an angle in a way that like some of the smaller guys run. And I think it's a little
Mhm.
bit different than just like, using your eyes to scan and like see where the
He
hole is.
squeaks. He squeaks through.
Yeah, he's a little bit more like, oh shit, he's too small. We didn't like we kind of he went under us a little bit of that, which I like. I think that's a good way to run. But I think that being a thing that Najee can't do doesn't mean that you can't get production out of him, because I think that you can make him go. You can go like the hole will either be this or this, and just like choose between those two. And I was just watching him run into tackles, just run right into them when I saw holes from the other side. So that to me means he can just be schemed for a little bit better, because I think that he can get a little momentum going downhill. I think he's big. I think that he can be used in a certain way. I mean, I agree with you that it is like the Zeke Pollard thing, based especially on their kind of body types and like how they look on the field. But I really do think you could get more out of Najee, and I think that would really help Pickett too, because I actually think Pickett's a good QB. I think he's got the ability to be good. Especially like, look, I know that it doesn't translate every single time from college. I thought he was fucking lights out in college. The things that he was good at in college don't translate very easily to the NFL. Like the way he like moved, his speed is obviously going to look a lot fucking slower when you're dealing with the kind of linebackers you're dealing with in this league. But I think his decision making is actually really good. And I think that what you see with duds, guys that come from college that you thought were good in college and become duds, a lot of it's down to decision making. I mean, we'll talk about Brock Purdy later, but you keep hearing this ludicrous fucking sentence said about Brock Purdy where it's like, oh, he's not that talented, but his decision making is super high. It's like, that's a talent. That's a talent, first of all. Secondly, that's the most important
You're
thing.
wrong. Yeah.
Like that's
You're
actually
wrong.
the most, because it's like, and I'm not going to compare Tom Brady and Brock Purdy. But that's what everybody said about Brady. Like, it was like, well, I mean, physically, he's not that gifted, but his decision making, like, I was there. That's what everybody was fucking saying about him.
Yeah, they kept showing the combine. Remember the combine?
Yeah.
He's like,
and it's like, you just don't make mistakes.
Like,
if you go in and and look, I mean, we saw it, in comparison with Dak over the weekend. No offense, but we will have to talk about this. You go in there and don't make mistakes, you can have a fucking perfect QB day and you can win the game for your team. Like, you can do that in this league if you don't make any errors. But you have to game plan for him to be able to put you in a good position to actually score and win games. And I just don't think that they run the right plays. It reminds me a lot of watching Matt Nagy take over play calling for the Bears last
100%,
year.
100%. I was going to make that comparison.
It's really just like every single time you're like, dude, that's not the right thing to do. Like every time they do something, you're like, that's not the right thing to do. And it's like, they don't know how to ride momentum. And like you said, maybe it is that Tomlin likes the challenge or whatever, but I just think that Matt Canada guy's got to go, at the very least, so he's not there to be a lightning rod for the blame of their offense anymore. And you can start to figure out what the problem is.
So I just want everyone out there to just get a general picture of how bad it really is with Matt Canada. That tonight, Pittsburgh Penguins open their season. Now, I don't know if everyone out there knows this, but the Pittsburgh Penguins play hockey and not football. And there were chants of fire Matt Canada at the Pittsburgh Penguins game tonight. So that'll tell you how bad it is in Pittsburgh for Matt Canada right now. There's videos going around. I know you said it's fake, but there's videos going around of him not cheering for his quarterback when he threw in the game-winning touchdown. I just don't know what he's still doing there, because it's so clear that he's the problem, man. You're 100% right. Kenny Pickett can be a very talented quarterback. He's athletic. He can make the throws.
But you saw that he can make the throws. You saw it at the end of the game.
I just think it's like you said, his processing is a little slow right now.
You got to put him in a position to get that.
Right. So what you do is you throw play action at him. You throw some RPO. You use athleticism to kind of make up for that, because the defense has to think about that. You know what I mean? When the defense is thinking for an extra second, right? When the defense has to think for an extra second, you have an extra second,
and then they don't get to do that thing. Huge. They don't get to do that thing defensively where they go like, let's make Kenny Pickett stay in the pocket. Let's make Kenny beat us.
Let's make him make
which they were like doing basically for the entirety of the game. But I mean, how many times we watched this Ravens team blow a fucking lead? Like just last year.
Oh, so many times.
There's something mentally weak about them. There's something wrong. And it's not going to get fixed.
We've been saying that. We've been saying that for 2 years. We have.
I mean, I didn't see anything that changed my mind about that in the offseason. So I just was so much lower on them than you. And it's funny. Yeah, they might win a great game here and there, but there's something wrong in there. I don't know what it is.
Well, it's funny how wrong I can be sometimes, because I raved about these weapons, and then they literally cost them two games. They cost that team 2 games by dropping passes. I saw a stat that was like, the Ravens over the past 3 weeks have dropped 9 passes for a total of like 195 yards and 3 touchdowns. It's like there's nothing wrong in
It's like they
Baltimore
got whatever
except
disease
that they
Kadarius Toney had week 1, and it
bro, it's
just, like,
great.
it ended up
It's
in
like
Baltimore.
they even gave, they gave Beckham all this money. Flowers is there now, and it's like even Flowers, man, I love him, but that drop that he had, it was so egregious in the end zone, like, wide open. That's the game. That is the game.
Yeah.
You are a first round pick. You have to make that fucking
I mean,
catch.
you're a
You have
professional wide
to.
receiver.
You
Forget
have to
forget
make that
forget
fucking
what
catch.
round you got drafted in, dude.
You
It's like, I
have to.
feel like if you give me wide receiver gloves, I'm making that catch. I'm just
And
like, I just feel like I'm catching that. So, the thing to me is it seems like a concentration issue. It seems like not doing the little things properly, like not they need to somehow start over from scratch and get a little simpler, which I know is difficult when you're in a place that the Ravens think they are, as a team, but you have to try to drill them a little bit better, not make these mistakes, because also, this is something I said about the Patriots for years and years. It's like the thing I'm the most jealous of about the New England Patriots, other than the fact that they like have the greatest quarterback ever, and if we're talking just fundamentals, when they were good and when their defenses were good, they always, always, always made the first tackle. They
yeah,
always made the
yeah.
first tackle. And like I would watch the Bears defenses get gradually worse from 2006 on, and I would be like, just stop
Arm
trying to make
tackle
arm
bullshit,
tackles
man.
like
Arm
across the
tackle
chest.
bullshit.
It's part of, it actually leads me into a great segue for number 8 on the power rankings, for slipping slowly, effervescently down the power rankings as they are. The men on your hat, like the Dallas Cowboys. I you know, I'm actually pretty ready not to overreact to that game, to be honest, because the blowing smoke of, like, every team that has happened over the course of the weeks that we've,
It's
like,
always bad. It's always bad.
it just hasn't quite come true, has it? It's like every single time we were
Every
like,
time.
"Oh, this team, this team, this team." I really think that what happened for me, I mean, maybe I'm crazy, and maybe people are gonna laugh me out of the fucking park for this. But for me, what happened was they came out of both halves, the 49ers, I mean, they came out of both halves a little faster off the starting line than the Cowboys. And they used that momentum better in the second half than they did in the first half, but they used that momentum to go downhill on the Cowboys. And they also had a couple of really, really good coaching adjustments coming into the game that I think that they saw on the tape that other teams had not been able to exploit, because admittedly, they have not played very many good teams. And yes, admittedly, they got blown out by the first really good team that they played.
Fucking blown.
Yeah, no, they did. But here's a couple other facts. They kept Christian McCaffery pretty quiet on the defensive side of the ball before the momentum of the day sort of slipped away from them. They made them use their secondary weapons, which would have been on the game plan. Like granted, their secondary weapons cut them up, but they made them use their fucking secondary weapons. The last mistake I think the Cowboys made, which I think was pretty fair, for them to go into this game thinking that this would work, is they were like, "Let's make sure it's Brock Purdy that beats us and not Christian McCaffrey," which
That is fair.
which I think would have been a completely fair thing to say, because when faced with the level of elite weapons that this 49ers team has on the offensive side of the ball. And I think that they turned around and they said, "We have to make Brock Purdy beat us," and I think Brock Purdy just turned around and said, "Okay." And that's what happened. And I think that it doesn't take anything away from how good the 49ers are, but I really don't think it tells me that the Cowboys are, like, that bad. Like, I don't think that it says that um, they're just above the Patriots and they're not just above the teams they've beaten and worse than the teams they haven't played yet, It's like, to me, it's like, look at what they did to Micah Parsons. Like, they kept showing that stat line of like, no QB hurries, no this, no that. It's like, yeah, obviously, because they game planned for that. Like, that's what
Yeah,
they came out
yeah.
and did. They were
took him
like,
out.
we
They
have to
did.
keep this guy quiet. And when they did that, like, the Cowboys couldn't build any defensive momentum, which you can go back now as the Cowboys and go like, listen, if somebody comes out and doubles up on him and they throw, 3 or 4 different tackles and guards at him to kind of, and they're chop blocking him and they're doing that thing that you can do to keep an edge rusher out of a game if you do it really effectively, then we need to be able to react to that. Like, that's very good coachable material to put on the board. It's like, well, where was everybody else, guys? It's like, he
Yeah,
can't do it
yeah.
every week. Where the fuck was everybody else? That's very coachable game tape, you know? The thing that I think is really the problem, essentially what I'm saying is it didn't make me believe in their defense any less. I think there's a lot of recoverable, salvageable things as long as they keep their mentality together. The thing that is very unfortunate to me is that again, your play calling was fucking abysmal. Like, there was chances to
Abysmal.
regain the momentum of that game. There was really solid chances to sort of not let the game slip away from you. And unfortunately, the 49ers had a really, really good idea, which was if they're gonna beat us, they better beat us with their offense. And it seems to me that that's what got found out about the Cowboys, to be honest. And, you say like, "Oh, Dak sucks, Dak sucks." It's like, I've been crying out for him to just become Brock Purdy for for years at this point, It's like, and now it's finally available to say like, "Dude, you got a great defense. You got a great running game. All you gotta do is not fuck up. All you gotta do is not try to be a fucking hero and not fuck up. Look at that game against the fucking 49ers. If that doesn't say it to you, I don't know what does. We're gonna make you into the best game manager in the NFL. We can make you this. It's just like, these are the plays we're gonna run. It doesn't have to be the fucking Dak Prescott hero hour. It doesn't matter what kind of a contract you're on. That's not my problem. I'm the coach. I'm not the fucking GM, right? So if they can do that, I saw how good the Cowboys offense looked with a game manager in there, and a more talented game manager means they're going to look even better. And I just think he needs to really readjust his identity if he wants to lead this team to any sort of success. It's not that he's not able to do it. So I just wanted to give you that sort of positive take at first, because I still think they're a talented team. I think that there's definitely question marks about the offense. I think there's serious question marks about the coaching as far as offensive play calling goes, which I know isn't what you want to hear when you have adjustments to make, but I just don't think it's all fucking doom and gloom, I guess is what I'm saying.
No, so I hear you. I do.
Losing to the 49ers, I have a
Is
feeling
not
everybody's
something to
gonna
bow
do
your
that
head
this year.
about, man. I agree. The 49ers are a wagon, and there's a reason why I think they're by far and away the best team in the NFL. I don't even think it's fucking close, right? And you can't tell me anything to convince me anyone's even close to them. However, there's just so many red flags that are just raising their heads early, and so ugly, man. It's like, I was texting my buddy through the week, and it's like, against the 49ers, it was so important for us to get ahead early. So important for us to set the tone. And that's what you do against this team. You can't let them get comfortable. You can't let them get that run game going. If their play action is going, you are fucked. There's nothing you can do. They have too many weapons. There's too much to worry about if they're able to run the ball effectively and use their play action. There's just too much to worry about. We saw it. George Kittle had 3 fucking touchdowns. He's like weapon number 5 on
That's what
that
I'm
team.
saying. That's what I was saying,
So I still can't fathom. I said this to you in the group chat. I said this earlier in the week. Why you give them the fucking ball first? All right. I can't. I don't get it. You
I think
have
that
to
it's
set
I
the
think that it's
tone.
like it's become kind of like, and I said this to you like briefly.
I don't care.
I
do.
No,
You
I'm
have
not
to
saying you're
change.
wrong. I'm not saying you're wrong. I just think that it has become like conventional wisdom to defer, because you can like manage the game better
But
with
it's like,
afterwards. But you saw the Bears and the Commanders, like
but
the Bears opted to receive the ball.
right, and they
Did
took
that in
the and they
order to
fucking
get the
went right
momentum.
down the field,
Yeah.
right, and it's like, when you do this, all of a sudden you saw what happened. You saw me in the I saw this script unfolding before my eyes, man. It was a touchdown drive by the 49ers immediately right down the fucking field. Cowboys 3 and out, like, within 30 seconds, 3 and out. It was the fastest 3 and out ever, and then the 49ers right down the field again, 14 fucking nothing before you know it, and it's like, I think there actually might have been, like, a stop and then another one, but it is 14 nothing
There was
before
a
the end
stop.
of
There
the
was a
first
chance
quarter.
for them to recapture that momentum.
Yeah, for
That
sure,
was the
but
that
then
was
they
the
went
part that
3 and
really
out
annoyed
again.
me. That was the part
Right.
that really annoyed me, because it's like, well, you stopped them on the second try. Like, they went down the field and scored once, but that's like, maybe you got punched in the mouth. They're at
Oh,
home.
they fumbled.
You just
They
got
fumbled.
here.
That's what and
Yeah.
then Pollard fumbled the ball. It
Yeah.
got it punched out, and
Yeah.
um,
Which was pretty unlucky, to be honest, because, well, it was a really good play by whoever tackled him. I don't think it was Bosa.
it was, Warner. It was
Yeah, it was
Warner.
Warner, Fred Warner. He's
Yeah.
really fucking good, and he's really good at doing that. And unfortunately, I think 9 times out of 10, with the position he was in, that bounces out of bounds. But because it all got like
It
fucking
just, like,
fogged up right there, it just skated right
it
in, and
was
I was like,
weird. It
"Ah,
was weird.
dude."
It was
So,
one of those things
that was
where
a
I was
little bit
like,
of bad
"Yeah,
luck,
we're"
but they did have a chance to rescue the momentum of the game, and they
It's
didn't
like,
take it.
even after that, I think the 49ers actually fumbled that out, and that we got stopped again after that, and then they scored. It was 14 nothing. But it's like, bro, against this team, 14 nothing is a death sentence, right? And then there's after that, there's key moment, right? That stuck out in my head that really just kind of encapsulated what Dak Prescott is to me right now. Because coming into the week, I said to everyone, the key to this game is going to be, can Dak Prescott win? Can can he elevate this team to the place it needs to beat an elite team? Because I didn't think he could. I didn't really have faith, but I'm like, that's what it's going to take for us to beat one of these good teams, right? It was middle of the second quarter. I think we were backed up into our own end zone. Uh, Chris Collinsworth specifically says, "This is Dak's moment. This is Dak's moment right here. He's going to do it. This is Dak's moment."
Man, they love Dak over here in Dallas.
This
I mean,
is,
I'm just saying, if he really wants to do it, this is going to have to be his moment. We were talking to him in the week, and I just think he really did showing like a different mentality. Sorry, go ahead.
Play 1, throw into coverage. Play 2, overthrows an open dude. Play 3, held the ball too long, sack. And it's like I said to my buddy, I'm like, I don't think Collinsworth has been watching Dak the past 2 years, because like when the moment gets big, this is what happens. I can't tell you the amount of times I've seen a strip sack on Dak in a big moment when he needs to make a play because he holds the ball too fucking long. This is what he does every single time. Then they just start fucking razzle dazzling on us and doing like flea flickers and shit. And it was like, at that moment, man, I knew that this was just, they were outclassing us. You know what I mean? That's the red flag to me. It's like,
yeah, that did happen at one point.
I think it was like
the third quarter. The third quarter, it was like, oh shit.
Yeah, they were on another level, and Dak just succumbed to the pressure. And it's just there's so many things that I've seen from this team that leads me to believe, like, listen, we can make the playoffs. We can do whatever we want. We're yes, you're right. We're a good team. But there is a 0% chance that if we line up against the 49ers in the playoffs again, that I foresee a different outcome.
Yeah, I don't
until
know.
Dak Prescott.
I don't know. I don't know.
Listen, until Dak Prescott can win a game. And it's like, you're right. The defense is great. But where the fuck are they? You're right. Micah Parsons is amazing. But like, he can't win you the game every single week.
Yeah, but this is what I've been saying. I feel like a broken record about
DeMarcus Lawrence? DeMarcus Lawrence used to be one of the best players in the league, and now he doesn't do shit every single fucking week.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. You can't ask, and I've been saying this to you for 18 months, maybe even longer. You can't ask a defense that's set up how that defense is set up to be on the fucking field for that long, which is why the fucking balance of how that team is set up is incorrect, because the play calling on the offensive side of the ball, what they should have been doing, and I just don't think Dak's going to go for this. This is the problem, because I think Dak thinks he's somebody that he's not. Like, this is just based on how he plays the game. But I just think if you're the offensive coordinator and head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, you have to sit Dak down going into this week and honestly forever and say, like, we need our offense to be on the field for every drive. Look, yeah, for every drive, ideally we get on the board, right? Kick a field goal or score a touchdown. The goal is obviously to score a touchdown, but ideally we get on the board. But whatever happens, what we're really trying to do is we're trying to have time of possession win us this game. We're going to not let that 49ers offense onto the field.
That's how we went 13-3.
Yeah. And how we're going to make the San Francisco 49ers defense, which is one of the most elite defenses we've seen in the past few years, how we're going to make them look average by the third quarter is we're going to make them spend the whole fucking game out on the field, right? So what does that mean? That you start to break that down. It means 2nd and 5, right? That's what it means, like, first and foremost. It means 2nd and 5, right? 2nd and 7,
3rd and 3,
scenario.
3rd and 3.
Yeah, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 1, it means 4th and 1, we go for it no matter what. 4th and 1, we go for it no matter what. And we have a play to do it, and we get it, right? It means it means pocket protection. So it means the offensive line has to step up, but it also means decision-making. It means decision-making, Dak. It means that if you can get 3 yards and it's first down, get it. If you can get 3 yards and it's second down, get it. Take that step into the pocket, hit a hole, slide. Like, march them down the field. Get death by 1,000 cuts, 1 yard at a time, 1 play at a time, 1 catch at a time, 1 run at a time. It's the Rocky mentality. It's like it's yeah. Of course, Apollo Creed is a better boxer than you, but not when it's the 12th round and you're all heart and he's fucking exhausted, right? Like, of course he's more talented than you, but not in the fucking 12th round where you're still there and he's giving you everything he's got and you're still standing in front of him. And it's like, where is that piece of leadership from Dak? Where he says, like, I don't need to be a hero, I need to be a leader. There's a difference,
The thing is, like, this team is so what's you're correct that that's the way they need to do it, but the thing is, like,
especially
they can
against
be
the
so good
49ers,
at
but I just
that.
think in general.
They could be so good at that because they're so talented, and they do have the ability to go over the top, and they do have this ability to have those big plays, but they rely on them. Like, I specifically said to my buddy while, texting during this game, like, taking my notes and shit, that was there's no game plan. It felt like there was no offensive there was nothing to set anything up in the future. You were never thinking, "Let's do this now, because when we do this now, this'll work later." You know what I mean? Like, and that's how you have to think against the elite of the NFL. It just felt like they were trying to get all the big chunks all at once, and it's like, you think about the only good play for the Cowboys during this entire game, it was the over the top to Turpin, which was amazing, great catch, awesome play. He got hurt on it, but, it was awesome. It was the best play of the game, but there was nothing else that stood out about the offense that you were like, "Okay, they had an idea at that point of what they were doing." It just felt like they were always trying to get that big chunk. They were always trying to do everything in one play rather than set up a drive exactly like you said. You know what I mean? And, like, I do think it all boils down to, like, I think he got a lot of credit the first few weeks, but, the red zone struggles, inability to put together long drives against good defense like we just saw. I think it comes down to McCarthy, man, and I think he runs I think it's like Bill Belichick syndrome, like we talked about last week, where it's like you're stuck in an era of football where you could do things like this and you could get by not being electric and not what's the right way to put it? Not just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. You gotta think outside the box and think big with offenses now. It's just the way it is. That's why, like, dudes like McVay are so successful, why dudes like Shanahan are so successful, and McDaniels, because they do
McDaniels.
things
McDaniels?
he's a
He's not
gene
he's not in
not
that category.
McDaniels, McDaniel.
McDaniel. Yeah.
McDaniel, sorry. Um,
I was like, "Wait a second."
McDaniel. Um, because they do things that are unconventional
Did you hear Josh
and
McDaniels, by the way? Like, "Oh, yeah, I'm glad he horse collared that guy."
yeah, what a dirtbag he
Fucking
is.
idiot,
Um,
dude.
he's actually, like, the most hated man in the NFL, I've
He's
heard.
the
Uh,
worst.
yeah,
I
he
hope he
really is.
stays there. I hope he stays the Raiders coach forever.
He didn't take the Colts job because Jim Irsay took a huge shit in his house, which I think is fucking hilarious. But,
You gotta
but
be
yeah,
wary of anyone wearing a visor. I've learned that from the Matt Nagy experience. Like, he doesn't even wear that visor anymore. He just stands all bald on the sidelines for the Chiefs. And I think Andy Reid was like, "Take that shit off." And I just think anyone in a visor you gotta be careful of.
I
Like,
don't
what
disagree.
why don't you want the rest of the hat? What's the problem? Like, what, just have the whole hat.
I don't understand the
It's
visor,
like
you're right.
it's like people who like show up in like very, very ripped jeans. It's like they're not just distressed. There's like holes in them. It's like, did you pay less money for less denim? I'm confused. I can see
1 or
your
2
fucking
holes is
boxer
okay.
shorts.
Some fade and,
A
like,
little, a little, a little, a
some
little
fray.
distressing is a little
Yeah.
different than a fucking gaping hole because it's gonna rip more. Um,
You ever have the hole in your pants though, and you go to put them on, you put your leg in it, and it just gets so much better.
makes
It's the
it
fucking
twice as
worst.
big. Yeah, of
Oh,
course, of course.
it's so bad. But yeah, it's just I just don't see us competing with the elite of the league and anything being different. You know what I mean? That's what I'm just hoping for different because I've seen this before. I've done 11-6. I've done a second round playoff
Yeah.
exit, bro. I've done all this. And it's like I need the next step. And I don't mean to be spoiled and I don't mean to be whatever because, like, listen, I've been to the depths of hell with this team. I know.
Yeah.
But, like, this team could be great. And it's like it's just feels like it's being fucking wasted again on the same fucking shit that it was wasted on 10 years ago. You know what I mean? It feels the same, man. And it's so
I guess
distressing.
my overall point is
42 to
that
10 is fucking unacceptable.
I
That game
know.
was unacceptable.
I guess my
You gotta
overall
at least
point
stay on
though.
the field with them, no?
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, it is unacceptable. I just think my overall point is that the pieces that you have could be used better,
Yeah, they
and
could.
they're just not doing it. Did
But
you watch the early game? Did you watch the Jags beat the Bills?
I did, yes.
What'd you think?
So they're 7 and 6 on here, so we can kinda loop them
Yeah,
together
we
here
can marry them.
because So I don't penalize the Bills as much as I reward the Jags for it, I have to say.
Interesting. I feel the exact opposite, but go ahead.
Okay, so I just feel like it was really unfairly set up for the Bills. I don't know if it was their decision or like what happened, but they didn't get there until Friday. I know it's only a 5-hour flight, but like they were clearly still fucking asleep for the first half of that game. I think the fourth quarter was more reminiscent of how these teams actually match up, where they're much closer. The Bills actually started to take it towards the Jags a little bit, where they looked a little tougher, they looked a little bit more physical. I think the Jags just had the the momentum at that point, and it was already over. I think they were up like 14 at that point. Um, I don't know. I do like the Jags. I think that they were the team that just kind of got off to that slow start. You look at their weapons, man, and like their defense, like they have the pieces of a complete football team. They have great players on defense. They have great weapons. They have ETN.
They have decent weapons. They have decent.
Well, ETN, Ridley, Zay Jones, like they got some dudes. Evan Ingram, Lawrence, like they have some guys to compete. It's just a matter, can they show up in the big game against the best teams in the league? I mean, that remains to be seen, but they just beat the Bills. I mean, the sleepwalking Bills, but they beat the Bills.
I just think watching that game, like the Jags did everything they possibly could to hand that game off to the Bills. Like they were fumbling, they were making mistakes, they weren't capitalizing on big moments. Like they were doing all the things that like made me think they weren't as good as I thought they were going into last season. Like where it's like, well, you don't really know how to execute a game plan. And I thought that they almost fucked it up. And I think it was just the Bills, like you said, like not showing up. Like that to me is like,
they did.
I criticize them for that. Like it's like you didn't fucking show up, dude. It's a 5-hour flight. It's up to you. It's your team. You figure out when you want to fucking land in London, and like you figure out like all that stuff, and you figure out that's part of running a fucking franchise. That's part of running a team of athletes is you figure out when you're gonna get the peak out of them when it comes to game time, and they didn't do that. Obviously, they fucking showed up like you said, completely sleepwalking. Also, I criticize the Bills because, again, like the Jags were trying their fucking absolute damnedest to fucking fumble that bag and give them the game. They completely fucking didn't show up for the fourth quarter. And to be honest, I saw a lot of problems with both teams in that game. Maybe you're right. Maybe it is the London thing, but the Jags have been there 2 fucking weeks already. So I don't know. Like that's a little bit of an advantage. I'm not really sure that's fair, to be honest, just in general. And I do agree with you there. But to me, the Jags look like a team they're like missing something. And I know that's not great, like radio punditry to not say what that thing is, but there's something about that team that's not quite there. Like, I think it might be on the defensive side of the ball or maybe it's in Trevor Lawrence. I don't know. But to me, if the Bills are going to be the kind of team that we think that they can possibly be, if they're really going to be one of the elite 5 or 6 teams in the NFL, they got to win that game. Like, and I mean that game specifically, not just beating the Jags. Just like the way that game played out, like they got to take advantage of the opportunities that came to them. They gotta score. Like for me, it's like there's things that would make me go apoplectic if I was coaching a team, and one of them is kicking the ball back to a team when we've forced a turnover. Like I would just go fucking insane. It's like you better put points on the fucking board if you get a turnover. You have to take advantage of that. I want to be in the top 5 of that stat every single year because that to me is just not stepping on the neck. You're not stepping on the neck of your opponent. You don't have the ruthlessness. You don't have the fucking qualifications to win a football game. Like you have to go and fucking do it. You got to go do it. So, that to me just shows a weakness in the Bills that we all just sort of know is there. Like we've been watching this happen with the Bills where it's hard to really put your finger on what it is because they're so talented. I think it might be partially their running game, to be honest, but they're so talented that you're like, what's the deal? And I think it's something to do with what goes on behind closed doors or something because they just don't have that fucking killer instinct. And I think that, like, yeah, they can play tough, they can beat you up, they can play physical, they can drag you into a physical game, but they just don't have that fucking assassin's fucking instinct, you know? And I think that's what I saw in that game. And I woke up at 6:30 to fucking watch it. So I was a little extra pissed.
I hear it. It's early. That West Coast, bro.
Yeah, West Coast,
that's
baby.
tough. Yeah, I agree. I think the run game I think that's a great point. The run game for the Bills is the most important thing because you saw what they look like the past 2 weeks when they have one. James Cook had over 100 yards the past 2 weeks. The Bills look fucking untouchable. As soon as he had I don't even know what it was in this game. I know at one point he had like -2 fantasy points.
Yeah, he was bad. He had
But
like 4 points total or some bullshit.
yeah, he had a really bad game in this game. And I think that showed, obviously. Um, you know, I just think it's so important for you to take that load off Josh Allen, man.
Yeah, you have
A
to. You
quarterback,
have to,
a quar
especially when they
he
play this physical. Like, how do you not have a
yeah,
fucking field when you play
exactly.
physical like this?
It's different when it's like a Fields or like a Zavik or like different like that because
Yeah,
it's all
but
about
Fields
finesse
also
and
has
agility.
three decent running backs behind him. You know,
Right,
it's
and
like
well, I mean, it's not that listen, James Cook is good. It's
I don't
sometimes
think
the
he's the
run
right
game for
guy.
this team just looks inept, man,
It
and
it
it's yeah,
does, it does. You're right, actually,
it's
'cause I was blaming the backfield last year too, and I think that it's
no,
like
James Cook is better than Singletary for sure.
yeah, yeah, but I also think sometimes I watch it, I think you're right, I do think how they scheme the runs are weird or bad, but I also just think, like I think to myself when I watch that team, I'm like, "Oh, if they had, like, a Jerome Bettis," you know? Like,
A
if they
power
just
guy, yeah.
yeah, like,
If
if
they
they
had
just had a
Josh Allen
power
as a
O
running
guy.
back, if they had
Yeah,
Josh Allen as a fucking
right.
running back,
Right.
essentially.
Yeah, like or,
Um,
you know, the way that like, the way that we were talking about DeAndre Swift fitting in perfectly to that Eagles offense, like, they don't have that guy for them.
I don't hate the take that McDermott might be overrated as a head coach. Um, I think that the loose cannon of Diggs this year has kind of been an
That's
indication of
obviously
that,
been, you
about
know,
how
right on
he's
the cusp for the entire season too, yeah.
yeah, and I think that does have a little bit to do with the McDermott aspect because it's been 3 years now of this squad, uh, I don't wanna say underachieving, but kinda underachieving. I know the first year was kind of an overachieve that they stuck with the Chiefs, everything like that, but it just feels like they've hit their ceiling, and we need to see something more from them, personally. Um, I just wanna make it clear too that, uh, between the Jags and Bills, in my opinion, in the overall aspect of the league, there is a huge gap. I know the Jags just beat the Bills, but I do think the Bills are on a different tier than the
Yeah.
Jaguars,
Yeah, the way
right?
you have this, power ranking set up, you have 10, 9, 8, 7, then you have a big gap just to for visual aid for me, and then you have the Bills at 6. Number 5 is the Lions. I don't wanna do a ton on the Lions because I don't think beating the Panthers moves the needle for me a ton. I think they
Beating up on them does, I think, though. Maybe
well,
not move the needle, but it
mm,
solidifies. It solidifies, I think.
the only note I really had on the Lions was letting the fucking Panthers score that many points on you was probably
I
not a
did
great look.
think that. Yeah, I
Like,
did think that. I don't
I'll be honest, I didn't
were
watch
they
the game because, like, ugh, the fucking Panthers, ugh. You wanna talk about a fucking offense you don't wanna watch, Jesus Christ. But it
14
did
were garbage points, garbage time points, to be fair.
yes. So I just think I think that unless you're very different on the Lions than you were last week where we think yeah, I think their defense is a little worse than you think their defense is, but we both agree that they have one of the better offenses. They're a lot of fun to watch when they're playing a decent team. I don't think they're gonna win the Super Bowl, but I do enjoy I think they'll win 10, 11 games. And I think that they're sitting quite nicely at number 5. I think because again, I mean, I know you did the tiers, and I know you were a little bit joking when you put the 49ers at 1 and put the big gap. I'm not sure that the
It's not that
Bills
much of a joke.
yeah, well, I'm not sure the Bills and the Lions are in the same tier as the Dolphins, the Chiefs, and the Eagles, or at least the Chiefs and the Eagles. Um, to be honest, if I could just skip right past the Lions and we could talk a little bit about those 3 teams in a group, it would
Yeah.
be
Yeah,
helpful
yeah, for
because
sure.
I think that they have some similarities as teams because I think all 3 of those teams, the Dolphins, the Chiefs, and the Eagles, are all really good teams with weird flaws, you know? I think the Dolphins lack a little bit of physicality, and I think that was
For
exposed against
sure.
the Bills. I
Yep.
think the Chiefs are still the Chiefs, but they lack the kind of the ability to be as offensively creative as they've been in the past, and an Andy Reid team, I think, needs to be offensively creative, and I don't think they have the weapons to do that. Although I did really enjoy Rice, kinda coming out of nowhere.
Rasheed is
Yeah.
good, yeah.
I think that's gonna be really helpful for them moving forward. I think the idea of throwing, like, Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney at a problem is very upsetting. But, you know, Simmons made the point, like, I don't know who's who out there. Like, their
It's
numbers
so true, you
and
really
I was
don't.
like, "Damn, I agree with that." Like, holy shit, like, it could be Kadarius Toney, it could be McKinnon, it could be Sky Moore, it could be fucking Edwards-Helaire, except you can kinda tell him because he's fucking tiny
His face mask.
in his face mask, but then also the Eagles, like, I thought that the Eagles maybe were a little bit more convincing this past weekend, but, just again, like there's something kind of missing about what they were doing last year in comparison to what they were doing this year. And also, unfortunately for the Eagles, they have to be in the same division as the 49ers, and there's no fucking way that they're beating the 49ers in a playoff situation this year. So I think it is fair enough that the 49ers are the number one team with a bullet, with a gap after them, because they look like the only team without any flaws. Like, they just don't look like they have any flaws. And, like, usually by this point in the season, there's 2 or 3 where we haven't narrowed down what their flaws are yet. But I think everyone else in the NFL has told us what's wrong with them. Every other team in the NFL up until this point has told us what's wrong with them. But the 49ers have not revealed it yet if it does exist. So I do agree with these tiers in that sense.
I think I like the point about the Dolphins as physicality, because they remind me a lot of the Rams back in the day, where it's like they were just all speed all the time. And the only way to beat them was to punch them in the mouth. And that's the only way to beat the Miami Dolphins at this point.
But you can do it. And it was really revealed
you can.
that you can't do it. So they got to figure that out.
You absolutely can. The Eagles completely agree. And the Chiefs completely agree. The Chiefs, I hate doubting them, man. It kills me.
I don't know. They don't look the same this year. They genuinely don't look the same this year. Maybe they'll figure it out. But to me, I think we can really honestly just launch into this exercise now, because I think it'll reveal kind of my overall point. Like, we got 2 NFC teams and 2 AFC teams in the top 4. So the Dolphins and the Chiefs would play each other in the AFC title game. The Eagles and the 49ers would play each other in the NFC title game. And I think we're going to have the same answer for both. I think the Chiefs would beat the Dolphins in the AFC title game.
I disagree.
You think the Dolphins would win?
I don't think the Chiefs can punch them in the mouth. And that's the only way you beat. Do you actually think the Chiefs can slow that team down?
No, I'm just going to say the same thing I always say in these situations, which is I've seen Patrick
Mahomes
in the AFC title game, and I've seen what he looks like in every title game. He becomes superhuman in those situations. And I just think, it's difficult for me to believe that the Dolphins have enough, especially on the defensive side of the ball, to like stop him from doing whatever the fuck he wants for a whole game. That's the only reason I say that, but that's kind of conventional wisdom. And I'd be happy to be wrong about that, because I do agree with you that the Chiefs have a little bit of, they have some flaws.
I just think it's the Dolphins.
They just had one receiver. If they just had one guy,
right? Just one guy.
Like,
that's all they fucking need, man. It's
he doesn't even need to be Stephon Diggs. Like, it could be like Jerry Jeudy, like it could be like Cortland Sutton.
Anyone.
It could be one of those guys. Like, it could be someone.
It could be fucking Michael Gallup, bro.
Yeah, Michael Gallup.
Fucking Michael Gallup. That's fine. Right.
Yeah.
He's at least the solid wide receiver.
Yeah. Terry McLaughlin, like anyone.
McLaurin.
I mean, yeah, McLaurin. Fucking not McLaughlin. Fucking Braveheart.
Movies with the Family Guy real quick.
Yeah. But yeah, listen, I mean, okay, either way, the point of the exercise is really based on the second part of the question, because Eagles play the Niners right now in the NFC Championship game. I think we agree the Niners are going to the fucking Super Bowl.
Yeah, bro.
Either the Dolphins or the Chiefs play the 49ers right now.
No, the 49ers.
49ers.
It's not even close.
Crazy.
Honest. Listen, if Brock Purdy is this good and he looks this good, this isn't.
Dude's never lost as a starter. He's never lost a game as a starter. You've never witnessed him start a game and lose in your whole life.
We got to stop with this like system quarterback, system this.
He's legitimately so good.
Bro, he's so fucking good. He doesn't make mistakes. And it's like my buddy was texting me like, Brock's going to give us one, right? I'm like, no, bro. He's not going to give us one.
But that's what Brady used to do. Like, I'm not saying they're the same, but that's literally how like
they play very similar. They have very similar pocket presence. And I saw a stat. I want to read this off because it kind of disproves literally if I could type my passcode in. God damn it, of course. It kind of disproves the entire system quarterback thing. That's like, so far this season, get this up. So far this season, Brock Purdy threw. So last game, actually, let's start there. Brock Purdy threw all 4 of his touchdown passes from outside the tackle box, which means outside the play. The most of any game in the NGS area. What's NGS? I don't even know. In the NGS area. I don't even know what that means. But so he threw all 4 touchdowns outside the pocket is essentially the point. Purdy has completed 7 of 10 passes.
Next gen stats era.
Next gen stats. Nice. Okay. Purdy has completed 7 of 10 passes over 10 air yards for 166 yards and 3 touchdowns. He leads the NFL in completion percentage, 72.1% on such passes this season. So he has been the best quarterback in the league completion percentage wise. And last week, outside the pocket, which means outside the play, when the play breaks down, Brock Purdy is making the correct decision and throwing it to the correct person to get the completion and move that drive along. That is all you can ask for a quarterback with these kind of weapons and this kind of team, man. Like I heard it on PMT this week. If you're sitting here telling me you can name 7 quarterbacks in the NFL that give you a better chance week to week to win than Brock Purdy, you are fucking lying to yourself. Because I watch every fucking game, and there is not 7 quarterbacks better than this dude. There is not. I watch every game. There's garbage quarterbacks out there. He is better than most of the quarterbacks in this league. It's not even close. And and that was the biggest question mark. You know what I mean? That was the question mark of this team. They have everything else. Everything else. And if he's elite, I don't know if they can be beat, man. I don't see anyone beating. They have a matchup against the Eagles, I think, like week 9 or 10.
They might go undefeated. I said that to you. They might.
That's the only team that I think.
Or you know what's probably going to happen, and I just want to get this one on record because I've seen really, really great teams in the past, and I think this usually happens because of how the NFL works. They go out and they lose to the team you would least expect them to lose, and they go like 16-1.
Yeah, okay, that like, might happen.
You know, it's like, oh shit, wow, that's crazy. They fucking played like the Bucks that week and they lost. That's crazy. You know, like something like that might go down. Like the '85 Bears lost against like one of the most historically bad Dolphin teams ever, and it was like you remember because it was the Dolphins, because the Dolphins were like the '72 Dolphins were like really gearing up for that. Like nobody can go fucking undefeated, fuck everybody thing at the time. The Patriots should have lost to the Giants in the last game of the season. They put too much on the line and showed too much of their hand when they were going undefeated. And every single Patriots fan in New England knows that to be true. And I think they would have won that Super Bowl if they fucking benched their starters for the last game of the season. So I just think the only thing that might be their downfall is like the idea of going undefeated getting in their head. But I think the most important stat from last weekend as far as Brock Purdy goes, because I think everything you said about him is true. I think it is dumb to not be saying that he's the real deal.
You're just not watching if that's what you're saying.
It is, but I think the stat that I looked up when I finally tapped out on that game early in the fourth quarter, the stat that I looked up at the end, because I wanted to know, because I think this is the most important thing about his game. I wanted to know how many yards he averaged per throw, 10.5. And I just think like that to me is like that's the Tom Brady number. Like that's the Tom Brady number. When you're averaging 10 yards a throw, a completion, 10 yards of completion. That's the TB12 method of like winning games.
Well, let's play. I want to play a fun game here. I've seen people do this. I want to play Who Would You Rather? Right. We're going to play Who Would You Rather right now.
Sure. Let's do it.
So who would you rather? Would you rather Brock Purdy or Tua?
Brock Purdy.
Brock Purdy. Okay.
Wait. Is it? Am I taking their whole offense, or am I taking?
It's who would you rather for? I don't know. That's a good question, actually.
Let's pick a really neutral offense that you would have to plug them into, and we'll do would you rather there. So like, who would you rather? Let's do the Dallas Cowboys. Like
I was actually going to say the Cowboys. Okay.
Take Dak out of the equation, right? And you give me a bunch of who would you rather's against Brock Purdy, and I'll answer everything you can.
So Brock Purdy or Tua for the Cowboys?
Brock Purdy, easy.
Okay. Trevor Lawrence or Brock Purdy? It's a tough one.
Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because of the basement, you know exactly what you're getting.
Because of how I want him to manage a game.
Right.
You know how because I think it's about winning because what I'm thinking is who's going to win me the game. Not like who's going to have the better numbers or who has the bigger cannon or whatever. It's like who's going to win me the game. Brock Purdy.
Deshaun Watson.
Brock Purdy easily.
Okay. I'm not even going to ask that one. Fields.
Justin Fields, no question.
You're a fucking idiot.
Not even close.
Kirk Cousins.
Oh God, Brock Purdy.
All right, obviously. All right, we're gonna go higher than that. Justin Herbert.
Okay, I'm gonna take Herbert in that situation because I think to me, I think Herbert's winning that fucking Chargers team defense. Our Chargers team games that he has no business winning them. I think that they're so much fucking worse than they're actually letting on, and that's just a Dave hot take anyway. So I'm going to take Herbert there, just based on the fact that I think he's woefully fucking underappreciated for the level of talent that he is. And I think in about 5 years, if Brock Purdy's like one of our best QBs, I think Herbert's still going to be right there too if they put the right people around him. So I'll take Herbert in that situation with some.
Don't disagree.
Caveats.
I think that's a line of top 5. I think Herbert's top 5 talent wise.
Yeah. So I'm like, I'm still taking Mahomes over Purdy. I'm still taking probably
Jalen.
No,
Hurts.
I'm taking Brock Purdy.
You're taking Purdy over Hurts?
Yeah, because Hurts is so fucking trick or treat this season, dude. Last year Hurts, I'll take last year Jalen Hurts. The way he was playing, the way he was playing behind that offensive line, but he doesn't look quite the same. He just doesn't.
I don't disagree. If you give me a neutral offense.
I think like nobody can play in that Eagles offense other than Jalen Hurts. I wouldn't put anybody in that Eagles offense other than Jalen Hurts. The whole fucking thing would fall apart. But somewhere else, Purdy.
Burrow, right?
Last week, Joe Burrow, where it looked like he went and got the Kobe treatment and he looks like he can move around.
That's
I'll
Joe
take Burrow for sure. That fucking Joe Burrow's that dude, though.
But he is that dude. And did you see the Kid Cudi reference too, man? That made me love him so much more. Okay, so that puts Burrow what, 6th? Or not Burrow? Purdy at 6.
Purdy at 6.
6, right?
Yeah, I don't think there's 7 better quarterbacks than Brock Purdy.
It's fucking crazy, man. It's fucking crazy.
It's pretty crazy. Like, I mean, but even if you go through I know. Like, if you go through the murderer's row of everybody else, if you think Dak, obviously Purdy. If you think Mac Jones, obviously Purdy. If you think fucking Dimes, obviously
32.
Purdy. But I'm talking about guys that Bryce Young. There's guys that people have traded legitimate assets for, and then Brock Purdy comes out of fucking nowhere, and
undrafted.
it's like
Mr. Irrelevant.
Mr.
Irrelevant.
The thing is like it's unfortunate because it's like I think Patriots fans have been like, oh, we'll get that 199 guy again. It's like, nah, you can't. Lightning can't strike twice. That's got to happen to somebody else. And I think it might have. I'm not saying he's gonna be Tom Brady, but that might have happened to the fucking 49ers because
he's really good, man.
And listen, I think that you and I agree on this. And if there was a dissenting voice here, they'd be saying like, look at what he's got to throw to. And it's like, I know, dude, but I've still seen people.
You got to do it though.
I've still seen people fuck that up. Like I've seen all the weapons. You can't do it without a QB. He's the first guy who touches the ball. So the decision making is just out of control. He's got to be so tough to watch play against your team because you just know he's not going to fuck up. You have to beat him. You have to beat him.
He finds the open guy, and the thing about this offense, man, is that like it schemes. It was the opposite of what the Cowboys were doing.
He definitely understands the offense too. Like, he really understands it.
But guys are just fucking wide open in this offense. It really is, man. It's like
because fucking Brandon Ayuk would be the number 1 receiver on fucking 14
teams.
But
it's like when you execute, though, what happens is like you can't when you let this team get going, right? It's different when Purdy has to drop back and pass, and like you can focus on the pass, you can focus on this, but like you have to center so much focus around Christian McCaffery. You have to. He will beat you every single time if you don't. As soon as that focus comes off of Purdy, he knows how to pick it apart. You know what I mean? He just does. And like, he knows how to not make the mistake. And when you have to focus so much on a run game, you can't be aggressive and try and make those picks. You can't be aggressive and trying to do this because you're playing man to man all fucking game. You don't have a chance to make those reads and shit.
It really kills you to see fucking George Pickens get a fucking man to man run down the fucking sideline where he's the only guy you have to guard, and fucking your team's trying to fucking mark 7 elite skill players at the same time. It's crazy because we're gonna shut down Christian McCaffrey, and for all intents and purposes, you did. On the Christian McCaffrey scale, you did
until a point, man.
Yeah, it's rough, dude.
They're really good. It's the case. They're really fucking good. This is one of the. Do you remember like 2 years ago when it was like they were the upstart 49ers and it was like this team that's like, oh, I can't believe, bro, that is the best team in the NFL. That's the best team.
I think because like they had Jimmy G in there, but Jimmy G also had this fatal flaw where it's like if it was a pass over 20 yards, he's not going to be able to make it. So you can just start to figure out their offense within that 20-yard like box. But Purdy, I'm not saying Purdy has a cannon, but he
makes throws, man. That's all you need.
He can make the right throws. Like I'm not saying he's going, 50, 60, 70 yards down the field for a dime, but like, does it even matter? Because his throws look so much longer anyway, because all his guys are such yak guys. It's like you fucking throw the ball to fucking Ayuk, to Debo, to fucking CMC, to George Kittle. Like they're all like then that's the other thing too, is that you think maybe they might have a red zone issue with the kind of guys that they have, but no, because they have George Kittle to just go over the fucking top. So it's like, or like CMC to just make a play. It's fucking crazy. It honestly is fucking crazy. But yeah, he might not be the fastest guy, but he's the smartest guy. You know, he's not the most athletic, but he's fucking smart. And like you said about his pocket presence, like it's so hard to sack him because he'll get the ball out of his hands. He can tell when you're there. You know, he knows how much he can keep like 3 or 4 things in his head at once. So yeah, he's that dude.
They're
Bro.
good.
Yeah, they're super legit. The problem is it might just fucking suck for content because they might just walk the rest of the season. But you know, we can talk about everyone else. All right. Well, we did it. We ranked the powers. 49ers number 1, big gap. Eagles, Chiefs, Dolphins, Lions, Bills, big gap. Jags, Cowboys, Steelers, Bucks. Congratulations to every team that made it. After number 1, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen next week? So,
that's it.
For myself and the real BK, the man who makes the power rankings, Bob Kelly, this has been Missing the Point.